Well, the whole thing.
How are you?
I'm trying to find
What are you doing?
on my
No,
No,
register.
with the-
I'm like, oh, yeah.
Let me.
You give me that look. Yeah.
It took me a second, it's been a little
End of
bit.
year ends. You look for the whole file folder. The cavities?
Oh, no,
She
she
has no
did
cavities.
good.
Right here.
She flosses like 5
Oh.
times a day.
That's 21. Yeah, but it's the, at least we have that, so. But it's a PDF. It's a
Okay,
PDF.
that works.
But if we do,
This is last year's, so
and then.
So would you do me a favor?
Yes. I
Log into our
so
YouTube
21 would be this one.
page,
Mhm.
this would be Grand County School District,
Okay.
and see if
But, let's look at,
it's, the board meeting is
Um,
ending.
Yep.
And
where was it? Board meeting?
Brad Woodford's on there.
that's Ariel.
Oh. I just can't read very well, I guess.
It says Brad.
Oh, here's the doc.
That's
Oh,
her.
now it says Ariel.
Never seen that, so that would be great.
Oh.
Yeah, they just needed to change the name. It's my husband's iPad.
I'm like, it's her.
How you feeling, Ariel?
I luckily just had like a 12-hour terrible thing, but it was short-lived and feeling better today. I'm trying to follow the health department said to stay home for 48 hours. So
Yeah, and I know someone else and they said it was horrible and they thought they was gonna be down forever and it was horrible quick, but it was gone quick too.
yeah. I like came on at like 6 a.m. and then by about 10 p.m. I was feeling pretty good. So short and terrible.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's
I can't remember, but that was last year.
That was last year.
Can you remember?
This
Can
was
you use your
last year.
brain? Were you here last year?
So this was last year, so Mike, Norma,
Oh, you were there.
I wasn't in 21, no,
Oh,
I
shoot.
didn't do that in 21. But that,
What, did you have an
This
idea
is
about
the
those
nominees.
shoes? Are you gonna
I'll
fill
look,
it out?
I'll keep searching. There you go.
Here's to that for this. Oh, you know, I just put it away.
Okay, we're just trying to.
Okay, yeah, I could probably,
I noticed.
I might-
I was like, there's no page number. Yeah, yeah, page 8. Well, the fact that he's kind of sticking around is great. You'll be fine.
Board
And
work session.
when you go to these conferences or you bring up his name, it's like, he's synonymous. I mean, he's just good at it. So you're gonna have a great mentor and just be in good
Yeah.
shape.
That's you can't put a price tag on that.
No.
It's great.
Although we did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Just say, I'll eat some crow on that one. It's-
Yeah, I remember when I got through into management, it's like, you know, here it is. Make it work, make it better. And it's like, don't muck it up. Sit at home, sit at the hotel and rack my brain. What do I gotta do?
Hang out, board meeting.
are we ready then? Karen? Or,
We're ready. And
okay,
it's,
Ariel's on there
and Pat.
and Pat's on there.
Oh, geez, I did. It's good.
And we are live on Zoom and YouTube.
Okay,
What's meaning?
so,
Oh, let me get Joseph.
I don't think I have an agenda in front of me.
I
Okay,
can hurry and print this
we
for you.
print those.
Do you guys, does everybody need one?
Need what?
An agenda.
No.
A paper agenda. I
No,
probably
Who wants one?
Not me.
I don't know. Two?
Great. But I'm gonna bring the Grand County School District Board of Education work session meeting to order. It's Wednesday, May 17th, 23. You say something? Oh, we're here at the school board office and we have Steve and D. Ray and Melissa and Kathy present and Ariel is via Zoom. We also have Superintendent Kay and we have not yet quite business administrator Clint York is here. And we have Pat via Zoom. And then we also have Corey, who is, what's the last name, sorry? Brantner. He's our new administrative, what's
Assistant.
assistant? Is that what it is?
Administrative assistant.
And he's our new, we've been taking minutes. Okay. Good to go. Okay. So first on the agenda is assessed valuation and tax levy rate. And Pat is going to present this.
So now let's pull up the estimated certified tax values first.
Okay.
So we talked this in a little more depth in the finance meeting, but I kind of want to go through this. I also want to bring up a couple just to give you an idea on what's changed over the last few years in relationship to assessed valuation. So if I go back and look at the history of Grand County School District, let's go back to say 2015, just so we can look at from there to the present a little bit. In 2015, real property accounted for about 27% of the overall assessed valuation. So that's going to be your primary residential property, your secondary residential, all basically property from that standpoint, not buildings. And today in 2022, last year it only accounted for 22%. So it's lost about 5%, even though it's grown in value from 431 million to 600 million. If you go to buildings, primary, etc., commercial was at 13.7%. It's now over 20% in 2022. And real property buildings in 2015 accounted for 38% of your valuation. It's now 55%. So it's gone up about 17%. Personal property hasn't changed a whole lot, but centrally assessed is the other one that, which is like Mid-America, was at 30% in 2015. It's now only 20%. So the real growth in your county from an assessed valuation standpoint is coming from your structures, your buildings. Obviously land goes up with some inflationary price, but you don't create any more land, but you have created buildings, and that's where it should come. And just to give you an idea, in 2015, that was 600 million, and now it's 1.5 billion. So you can see that it has a much more significant impact, the structures in the county, than, and I don't have a chart for that because it's like 6 feet wide. So I don't know how to print that to give it to you. So when you look at that in relationship to the assessed valuation, just that gives you some ideas, percentages as to how much is coming from the different areas. So this is the time of year when we've got to do a preliminary budget. We've got to figure out where we think the assessed valuation is going to be. We need to come up with where we think we ought to put the property tax rates at. We try to generate revenue. Are we going to have growth? Are we going to have inflation? We're pretty sure because of the last couple of years that we're going to have inflation. So if you look at this little chart that I've put together, this is an estimate based on estimates. There is some actual data in here, which is the adjusted value less the Board of Equalization for Grand and San Juan. Those are actual values. And we have the actual growth values from the prior years. But when you get to the year 2023, everything there is going to be an estimate based on trying to do predictions from what we get from the state office over a history of time versus what comes out as the actual over a history of time. So we're anticipating about 2% growth, which would be about 53 million. Now, this could be high or low, but we know with the moratorium on hotels and stuff in Moab City, we're probably not likely to see a really high growth rate of structures because it's mostly going to be primary residential. You can see last year it was 2.75. You can see 2021, it was 3.84, about 80 million. In 2020, it was about 3. In 2019, it was 2. So our estimate of 2 is kind of on the low side, but we also have a new parameter that's a part of the process. So I don't think we're out of line. We could be a little high, we could be a little low, but we'll probably be pretty close. The 5-year collection rate has gone to 96.36%. That in a way hurts us because it makes the essentially assessed valuation estimate higher, which then makes the certified tax rate lower because they're anticipating that you'll collect more dollars. So rather than getting it through redemptions, you get it through the current property tax. So the total adjusted value, you can see the BOE for Grand and San Juan and then the totals. So you can kind of see the history of 2019, 20, 21, and 22. Those are actual values directly off of the county auditor's reports that are submitted to the state at the end of the year. So we can see that the total adjusted value for Grand School District has gone from 2 billion to 2.8 billion in 2022. And we're only estimating that it's going to go to about 2.9 million and change in 2023. When we look at the preliminary assessed valuation that the state office has proposed, and I've given you exactly what the state has proposed. So in 2019, they were at 102%. 2020, they were at 101%. Then they were only 91%. That's the year we got a lot of growth, 3.84. Then last year they were at 94%. We got 2.75. So where are we at this year? Who knows? But that's what they're projecting. So when you take all of these estimates and you average the estimates out and try to project forward, what I'm looking at is that the certified assessed valuation estimate that I have is going to be about 2.82 million. And that means that we're going to see about a 5.51 overall percent increase in the assessed valuation. You can see we had 14, 13, and 5. That includes inflation. So this is growth and inflation combined. So if you subtract this number from the top number, then you can kind of see what the inflationary number is. The other question that will come to play is how much of all the property got reassessed and revalued at the higher values or has some of the taming and the inflation, started to taper some of that down, because real estate prices haven't really skyrocketed in the last 12 months. They haven't gone down much either, but they haven't really gone way high. So when you take all of those numbers and you put the proposed tax rate value, we're looking at using the 2828 as our our overall certified assessed valuation. So if you would pull up the property tax rate, Superintendent.
Sure.
The Finance Committee saw another little chart that was in here. So this is what we think this is kind of a history of the tax rate. And so you can kind of see that last year we ended up at 0.007050, which was a decrease of about 4%. We think the certified rate based on that assessed valuation will come in somewhere around 0.006443. Now, part of that is because the state legislature reduced the basic levy from 0.001652 to 0.0014. So they've taken about a 1/7% or a 1/8%, about a 12-13% decrease in the overall tax rate. So in their tax rate, when you apply that to the entire tax rate, it's not quite as large. But if you went to 0.006443, that ends up being about an 8.5% decrease in the overall tax rate. You can see that I've given you 3 other options, and we'll talk about those in a second. With a 6% decrease, a 5% decrease, and a 4% decrease in what the rates would like and where they would land in comparison to where we are and where we've been. So in 2019, obviously you hit the peak, 0.007416. You've seen your assessed valuation kind of grow since then. So this chart is kind of in reverse of the assessed valuation. We'll pull that chart up here in just a second. And so this gives us an opportunity to decrease the taxes for the taxpayers yet still maybe capture some additional taxes through truth in taxation. The other factor that's got to be brought into this discussion is the Mid-America repayment that's been approved by the courts of $500,000. We have not seen the final judgment come through yet, but we do know that it's working its way through the courts, and the likelihood is we're going to have to repay that next year. So the methodology to repay it could also be to look at increasing each of the levies that are going to be required to make some repayment, and then start to capture that, because we know that that's likely going to continue beyond just the 2023 year, 2024 year. It's going to go forward as they appeal those other years. So go to the assessed valuation graph, Superintendent.
Sure.
So as you saw the tax rates decrease, you can see that the assessed valuations have increased, especially if you look at 2020 to 2023, you just see this really steady line of an increase that's gone up pretty consistent, and it's very linear as far as its path. It's not going up and down. It's just kind of on a steady growth pattern. That's at least what's projected for 2023. Obviously, the assessed valuation and the totally adjusted value, this is the certified. So the blue is what we actually levy taxes against. The orange is what is the actual value in the county after the Board of Equalization makes adjustments. And so rather than give you the total assessed valuation, because we don't actually levy against that, we levy against these adjusted values. Just to give you some kind of an idea as to where they're at and where they grow. And the closer the two lines, the closer the orange line to the blue line means that the collection rate is much higher. When there's further distance between them, then the collection rate is the reason that there's a difference there, because the collection rate is factored by the total adjusted value, and that gives you what your certified value is. Okay, so go to the tax rate ideas. Do we have that one? I don't have that.
I don't think so. I didn't see it in the
Okay,
folder.
so go back to the property tax rates.
Okay.
Let me talk through this.
Okay.
So when we look at let's look at the 4% versus the 6%. If we were to just reduce the taxes by 4% rather than the 8.5, which is the 6,443. So that's going to be the far right column and against the orange column, we would pick up about $800,000 in new taxes as far as revenue, but we would still decrease the rate by 4%. If you did the 6%, which is the kind of the gray bar right next to the yellow bar, that's a 6% decrease to the taxpayers. You would garner up about $500,000 in new revenue. Now, the thing to keep in mind here is the repayment to Mid-America is $500,000. About 170,000 of that will be through the K-12 or the basic levy, which means that we'll get that reimbursed to us from the state. So the net out of pocket to the district is going to be 330 to 350,000, somewhere in that range, that we'll have to repay using the debt levy, the capital levy, the voted levy, and the board leeway levy. My recommendation back to the board would to look somewhere of going between 4% and 6% and trying to capture some additional revenues. I'd like to see you take the voted leeway back to 0.001. I'd like the debt levy is going to drop from 0.009 to probably 0.000884. And we would like to pick a little bit more up in the board capital levy and possibly in the board levy, and get the board levy up just a little bit. We do have the 10-year building plan. All the levies would have to kind of bounce up a little bit in order to make the repayment to Mid-America, because each of the levies will have to pay their share on their own. So the board levy, the voted levy will both have to pay a share of their taxes collected back so that the county can repay Mid-America. So would capital, so would debt. So If we didn't raise capital up, and let's say we left everything the same, then capital would actually be less taxes next year than it collected this year, because it's gonna have that small amount of growth if we don't do some sort of truth in taxation minus the payment owed to Mid-America, which we discussed, I think, last time. So I think that's the balance. My recommendation is somewhere between that 4% and 6, but we won't know exactly where we're at until we see the actual tax values come in through the county, through the CRT. And I won't have that until, mid-June, early June sometime. So everything right now is kind of being based on the estimates that I have, based on where the state assessed valuation, or the state office says the assessed valuation is going to be. So that's a mouthful. Is there any questions on that?
I have a question about Mid-America, Pat, if I may.
Yeah.
Is that, how many years of error does that represent?
It's not an error, it's an appeal. Mid-America appealed that. Those 2 years are years 2015 and 16, or they're 16, so it's 2 years. So if you remember, I did you a projected estimate of repaying everything up to 2022, which would make our levy be somewhere around 2.1 million in total repayment over all the years, if they came out similar to what these 2 years are. So that 500,000 just represents 2 years of appeals, and there's still, I think, 6 years of appeals in the court system.
Thanks.
I have a question, Pat. So, you referenced it, but you did, do we know who is getting reassessed this year?
Well, under the new law, theoretically, everybody's supposed to be reassessed every year now. But I don't know if that's a factor or if it's actually a reallocation. But no, I won't see anything, Kathy, until I see the tax values loaded into the system. So I don't have any idea yet. Once I see the tax values loaded into the county works or the county website, then I'll have some idea as to where things are at.
And then also, do we know what the drop in taxes would represent in dollar amounts, or like every 100,000 it would?
Yeah, I can
This
give you
much.
that. Give me about 2 seconds and I'll give you that. Let's see. So a $200,000 commercial building. Which one do you want, Melissa? The whole thing or the other?
You can just give me the 4 and the 6 if that's
Okay.
Even that, maybe, no, actually, you give me the estimated, the yellow bar, the 6443, and then I don't know, what do you guys care? Give me the
4.5 might be a good number. I don't know.
give me the 4% and then the estimated certified.
Okay. So if you were, the difference between the two and is $65, okay? Now the drop in taxes, the other one we've got to have is the existing rate. So if you went to the certified rate, your anticipated decrease in taxes is $121.
From
If
the 7050 to the 6443 would be $150.
say that again.
Going from the 7050 down to the 6443 is $150.
121
Did you say on a
for a $200,000 property is all. So you don't have any of those in Moab, but
But that's commercial. That's at the 100%.
well, that's at 300. Let's do 300 because that's the average. That's the average in your county is about 300,000.
Okay.
And then so for a commercial property at 300,000, the decrease would be $182.
Okay.
If you then in turn take that by the 4%, then the decrease is $97 or about half that. Then if you take it to be personal property or a home, that decreases about $100, or if you went to the 4%, it would be 54. So the 4% is going to be about half of what the decrease is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, tell me that
Yeah.
what the, oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you. We do have another sheet here, Pat, that has the rates on it.
I copied it for you. It's not in the board packet, but that's called the estimate. It's called the tax rate ideas, right?
Yeah, well,
Proposed tax rates, yeah, with the red numbers
Yep.
at the top.
Yeah. So I didn't put that. It's not really it's kind of shows you that at 4%, there's you'd collect 487,000 for capital, 159 for voted, and 270 for the board, versus 6% would be 232, 159, and 125. I mean, I don't make that decision for the board, but my recommendation would be somewhere between 4 and 6. I mean, you could do 5, but I think we wait to see what the assessed valuation is exactly and where the certified rate actually drops to, and then the board can make that decision. But I would want you to be thinking somewhere in that category. So that would force you back to truth in taxation.
now, but this preliminary budget that we're gonna look at next week.
Yep.
What did you use? What tax rate did you use?
It has my estimated certified tax rate in it. So that's all I can, till you give me guidance to do something different. That's about all I can do.
Okay, so if the process is gonna, you present this budget next week.
Yep.
Then when do we get feedback on tax rates?
We should, it's by law, it's supposed to be to us by June 8th or 9th. So
So we need-
what I'll ask you next week is can you tell me what you think you're thinking? And then once I get the information, I actually have to build the budget before the work session because it has to be published 10 days prior to the board meeting. But I'll have to kind of have your feel as to what you want to do, and that's what I'll put in the tentative budget. If we're going through truth and taxation, it'll be an estimate of what's going to be there based on where you think you want to go. Then
And
it
then
can
in
be
June-
adjusted based on the final numbers and the decision on the 21st of June.
And then in the June meeting, we vote on it.
You have to approve the budget. If we're going to go to truth and taxation, then you do not approve the tax rate, but you would approve the budget as a preliminary budget to begin operating. And then we would go back and fill out all of the necessary legal requirements and have to hold the public hearing like we've done in the past, which would
And the
probably be the first or second week of August.
And the public hearing for the budget would be the June meeting or the May
The
meeting?
public meeting, it is a public meeting for the budget adoption. And we will discuss the tax rate and we will do a budget revision for the 2023 year. So you'll have a public hearing that will cover those 3 items on the 21st of June.
So the night that we do the public hearing, we also approve the budget.
Yep.
So that's kind of a hard, I'm just kind of pointing that out to the board of like, there might be people out in the audience that might be hearing the budget that might not agree with the budget. We're taking that in as we're hearing it and voting on it. So we're not really sitting.
And
on
the
there.
approval of the budget, you do not approve the tax rates because the tax rates have to go back through the truth and taxation process. But the budget will have an estimate in there based on what we're going to do. And it is, what it does is it allows the district then to begin operating on July 1st under a preliminary budget. Otherwise, there's nothing approved and we can't expand. So you have to adopt the preliminary. It can be revised, If we end up, say, we don't raise the truth in taxation as much as was anticipated, then we revise the budget and the revenues down and the expenditures associated with it down.
But if we've already signed contracts with teachers and negotiated,
Those
that-
two are not necessarily totally linked together. Yes, they are, because it takes revenue in order to negotiate and make salary increases. But we're also talking about money in capital outlay for ongoing projects. We're talking about money to repay the Mid-America stuff that is not going to be in a contract with employees. Yes, there's a potential that some of it could be, but the majority of it probably will not be.
Okay,
You had me come to it last year, Pat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
any other questions for Pat? Nope. Ariel, do you have any questions?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Pat. Okay, moving on to fraud risk assessment. Pat's going to lead this discussion of the fraud risk assessment.
Kathy, do you want to lead it or do you want me to?
I took some notes.
Okay.
So I'll explain it the way I understand it, and then you can step in. So, do you guys all have the fraud risk assessment? Do we have it on
It's in
our drive? In our drive, okay.
Which one would you like, the checklist
So
or the
let's see, what's
questions?
the question? Let me see what the questionnaire is. I'm gonna look at the questionnaire.
Yes, no.
Yeah, the questionnaire. So basic separation of duties. So the basic separation of duties, these 12 questions are going to be
Page two,
basically,
next page,
Yeah, I'm going.
yeah,
right there.
Yeah.
so there are these 12 questions, and how we answer these 12 questions basically explains, it gives us our answer to number one on this, where we get 200 points. So the entity, does the entity have a board chair, clerk, and treasurer? Yes, as three separate people. Yes, we do, because the accounts payable clerk is the person who acts as the treasurer, which I guess right now is Gina.
Yes.
Is accounts payable clerk.
Uh-huh.
And she acts as the treasurer. Are all of the people who are able to receive cash and check payments different from all of the people who are able to make general ledger entries? And that is yes. Pat is the one that makes the general ledger entries, as I understand.
That's good.
And he does not receive the cash or the check payments. Number three, are all of the people who are able to collect cash or check payments differ from those who are able to adjust customer accounts? And Pat said that that's not applicable because we don't really have very customers. I think you said really our main customers that we would accept cash and check is basically the food service, school lunch program.
Yeah.
Number four, are those who have access to the blank checks different from those who are signers? And that is a yes. So Gina and Krista are those who have the access to the blank checks. And then the signers are, as you know, Melissa, Taryn, Pat, and I think
Good job,
myself is
Kathy.
on there. Yeah, I'm taking my
Yeah,
notes.
no.
I got my notes.
Yeah.
Number five. Does someone other than the clerk and treasurer reconcile all bank accounts, or are the original bank statements reviewed by a person other than the clerk? And that is where historically the board or the audit committee would review the bank record statements in a big binder that Pat would have. I think you and I, when we were on the audit committee, we would go through that. He had a big binder full of all the bank statements. So we would do that. And also the auditor reviews those annually anyway. Number six, does someone other than the clerk review periodic reports of general ledger accounts to identify unauthorized payments? And and that is where the monthly check register is reviewed by the audit committee. We do that we go through the disbursement form. Are the original credit card statements and purchase order statements that are received from the card company reviewed by someone other than the card holder? And I think that is yes, that they are So when whatever comes in from Amazon or wherever, they review those statements to make sure that we got what we ordered and it was all proper. Does someone other than the credit card purchase card holder ensure all card purchases are supported with receipts or other supporting documentation? That would be Gina does that. Does someone who's not a subordinate of the credit card purchase card holder review all the cards for appropriateness? And that would be the audit committee does that. Does the person, so number 10, does the person who authorizes payments for goods or services verify receipt of the goods or services? That's what I meant by that. Whoever gets the Amazon order in the mail, make sure delivered, make sure that they got what they ordered. Number 11, this talks about who the person that authorizes payroll payments separate from the person who prepares the payroll. So Krista does the preparations, she prepares the payments, and Pat reviews the payroll payments. And then does someone review all payroll payments who is separate? I think that's the same thing, basically. So Krista and Pat. So because we can answer all of these in the affirmative, for the most part, we got our 200 points at the top of our fraud risk assessment. So does the entity have adequate basic separation of duties as outlined in the questionnaire? And yes, we do. And so for the last couple of years, we have been able to meet that standard of 200 points. And then all the rest of the 2 through 9, we have answered yes to. All of the policies are all in our policy manual. As far as right now, number 3, Pat does have a CPA certificate. Clint does not. He's talked about continuing to pursue that. And then, but 3A, we do have somebody with a bachelor's degree. Pat does, Clint does, has a bachelor's degree in accounting. All employees annually commit in writing to our a statement of ethical behavior. We have done that.
Are we doing that again at the first of the year, right? Is that
Yes.
when we do? Okay. It goes out with contracts or, right?
Yes.
Same thing. Okay.
Code of conduct. For those.
Number 5, all governing board members must take the online training through the auditor.utah.gov, and we all do that, and we all need to do that again. And I think we're going to talk about that somewhere on the agenda. As far as continuing education, number 6, Pat has been getting plenty of continuing education, and Clint, as he attends the school district board administrators. Yeah, he will get those, easily get those 40 or get those 20 points. We do have, we promote a fraud hotline. We do have a fraud hotline. We do not have a formal internal audit function because we're so small, but we do have a formal audit committee. So that's how we got our total 375 points, which puts us in the very low risk category. So that was it.
Good job.
Thank you.
That was great.
Good job.
Better not do.
I got because of Gina, and I was like, boom, boom, you're nailing it.
And we may lose 20 points next year until you're able to get your CPA finished. But even with that 20, we're still going to be in good shape.
What do we get back out of this? Just
That's a good question. I think Clint asked that.
well, I mean, we're gonna have to do all this work. We'll still
I
be
know.
at this level, so it's like.
The auditor says, thank you for submitting your.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said you get a gold star and they
Yeah.
say, see you bye.
Yeah.
That's it.
We get a gold star.
And it wasn't.
To my knowledge, there's very few entities
That's
that
fine.
even use this. It's required by the state auditor's office. They're reviewing whether it has value or not. But I don't know any other entity that actually uses this assessment, so.
You never know though, like the state board could all of a sudden, or the legislature could go, this is super important and
Yeah.
connect something to it.
Well, I
Also-
wonder,
Yeah, we're still in good shape.
Oh, yeah,
regardless if they
yeah,
do.
yeah.
So
but even
it's a moot
before,
point.
if we didn't have like those 200 points, like initially, if we were in the very high risk category, I wonder if that would put us more on the mark of like, Grand needs to be looked at more
Yeah, let's
closely.
send them even
Highlight.
more on it.
We've
Highlight.
had enough audits.
It's
in
hard
like
to,
3 or
it
4
just
years.
sort of puts you a target on your back. Maybe. So,
Yeah,
A few years ago, we weren't getting that. You know.
right.
right. Yeah.
Well, good job, everybody. Good job, Kathy. Thank you.
Pat, do you have anything to say about that?
Nope, you did great.
Ariel?
Thanks, Kathy.
You're welcome.
All right, next is construction update. One of the things that we'll be talking about is the gym floor. Pat?
So we have been working obviously on 3 big things for the middle school that we came out with on the punch list. One was the retaining wall on the south side, and I haven't seen if it's finished, but it was finished other than the top rock when I was there. We got that at a very good price by working and negotiating and back and forth. We met with Com Floors. I met via electronic means, and they walked through the building with the architects and this process, because we never felt like the floor was fully and appropriately installed and sealed and painted. And there's been this debate and argument for the couple of years that the middle school has been open. So we have really not done a lot of maintenance on it because we've been waiting to get this issue resolved. So finally, ComFloors came down, and ComFloors has agreed to go through, and you can see all the notes. They will touch up the corners, the logo. They'll do all the warranty. They'll repaint both keys. They'll apply 2 coats of finish over the repaired areas. They'll repair excessive gaps in the boards in front of the coach's office, which is where we noticed the cupping and some of those things. And so in the end, after everything is done, Hogan is going to have about $23,000 of work left to do that's on them to abrade the wood and go through this process. So what Hogan has proposed back to us is that, because we haven't done any maintenance on it, we haven't tried to maintain it at all, is that we split this cost 50-50. And we put up about $11,600 of this $23,000 that it's going to take to go out and completely finish and get the floor back to where it should have been to start with. We would have spent, if we had done the maintenance in the last couple of years and abraded it and put the coats on it, we would have spent more than that on even just doing that much work. But we haven't. So my recommendation here is it's kind of a, ComFloors is obviously picking up the biggest share of this. And then Hogan and the school district are kind of coming in and topping it off. My recommendation that's on for approval for next time would be to go ahead and share this 50-50 with Hogan, get this other item off of our plate, get the floor fixed this summer, and be ready to go. Then the last big thing we have is just the stairs with our major punch list items, and we can start to close out this building and get moving forward. So.
What is the warranty after? So we'll get it repaired and up to specs, and then what is the warranty going forward?
The warranty's gone. The warranty was 1 year, and we're like 2 years into the floor.
All right.
So
even after this,
we're fighting this, and we've been fighting this based on all of the damage was identified and notified prior to the warranty having expired and prior to the punch list being released for fixing. And ComFloors is, I don't know, they blamed, it's kind of a catch-22. They blamed the mechanical system for not being fully operational inside the gym. They blamed the humidity was too high. They have blamed that the floor wasn't level enough and they had to grind it. And Hogan did grind a bunch of the floor. They've claimed that this is standard separation on a water-based floor. I mean, there's been a lot of arguments and debates back and forth. When we finally got the owner of ComFloor to actually come down to a face-to-face meeting, then kind of everything flipped, and he's like, yeah, we'll come fix this. We'll take care of it. We can see that there's some issues here. And, and that's what we've been trying to do for 2 years, is to get them to come back. And so they're going to do all the repairs that are part of the warranty from the original floor. And then what we want is we want to get the floor brought back up a little stronger with Hogan and that. And so we're asking them to share that cost. Hogan's asking us to share that cost, which I think is kind of fair in our case. Like I said, we would have done that had we gone forward, but we've been fighting this for like 2 years plus. So
there's no warranty. It's expired.
So after this is done, there's basically no warranty. We're gonna get all of our warranty work, get it restored back to what it should have been, and then we'll go forward from there.
How long will this process take?
Oh, about a month.
And do we have a time when they're coming down? To
I
do it?
don't, not till we approve this. I've told them to plan on it, that we would probably approve it. My recommendation was to approve it, but until they get a formal notice, they won't move. They're probably trying to lock in dates, but they haven't gave me any at this point, so.
But it should be this summer, we're assuming.
It should be summer at this point. I would guess it'll probably be June or July.
Okay.
June would be my preference, but won't get to dictate come floors.
Do you have any big events at the middle school over the summertime? Right?
I know there's a volleyball camp, but
The middle school is aware this is going to happen, and they supposedly are telling people that they could be basically kicked out of the gym at any time because this is going to have to take priority once we get the contractors lined up. So
yeah.
We'll have to maintain the air conditioning probably, that we might normally not maintain the air conditioning in June. and
well,
July.
we'll keep some air conditioning on it to keep the humidity down, but it'll probably only be like 76, 78 degrees, somewhere in there. It doesn't have to be down to 72.
Yeah. Okay.
Normally we keep them at 80. So
Next year when it's 80, it won't affect the floor.
well, once we get this done, then we'll have to go on to an annual maintenance cycle where we resurface the floor, or we hire someone to come in and abrade it and resurface it every year, which we do for the other floor, like at the high school. But we haven't done this one because we haven't wanted to unravel the warranty, so that because no one had ever come and actually looked at the floor except us and the architects and the contractor. Comfloors had never been here and looked at the final product until just about 3 weeks ago.
If we do the maintenance, the 80 isn't gonna hurt us.
No,
All right, any questions, Ariel?
Sounds like a hassle, but I think I'm good.
it's been a major hassle.
All right, any other, that was just construction updates, okay. Any other questions about the construction?
No.
I just had a quick question. You put chain link fence around the middle school front field. Was that always in the plan, or was that you decided later after it was?
That was
getting-
decided after the fact to try to keep the dogs
I think it was a good idea.
off of the football slash soccer field, practice field, because we were having significant problems with tourists taking their dogs on and not picking up their byproducts.
That's fine. I
So we're
noticed
trying
that-
to push them to the dog park. We just tried to make
I was
it so
glad
they
to
had.
see
Very proper, yeah.
Can I
I
ask
know.
a facilities question on this? Or
Yeah.
you can tell me? Okay, we've had a couple people talk to us about the trees in front of the high school with the caterpillars and probably killing those trees, just so I guess it's giving me a heads up with that. And then HMK's grass, are we letting it die? Is that the plan?
Sprinkler system's been broken. But I saw sprinklers on today.
I saw some on last night, but then I thought maybe the front drop-off area was, you're just giving up possibly to do construction in just
I wondered that when I was there today too,
It-
so good fun.
yellow.
Today.
Yeah,
Okay,
Today.
I hope it can come back. It looked
Very good.
really,
That's pretty far down.
it's
Mhm.
bad.
And those trees look pretty bad.
And those trees
So,
look really bad as
Right.
well.
Just a little report on that. Frank and I have been talking about that a lot, even before the governor was coming. Because it's an issue. Those caterpillars are crazy. And so he's super aware of it and, but
Kathy gave him a,
Well, somebody there, I think it was Bill Winfield, said neem oil. Said,
Yeah.
Oh.
Neem oil. So I told Frank, neem oil, but I,
Oh, great, yeah.
I have to confirm it. No,
no,
no neem, never mind.
No,
Oh.
I was just wondering about distribution.
Yeah. How do you spray it on?
Yeah, you have to spray it. You have to
Rub it
spray
on all the limbs.
Yeah, right,
So it is, Frank's aware of it.
Yeah.
He's trying to figure out
okay. I know.
what the
and so if
best
we
way
lose
to-
trees, what, are we losing trees at the middle school? And are those under warranty, Pat?
We have lost some trees. There's been some replaced. There's some that we asked not to have the trees be replaced because we didn't like the area. So it'd be a tree specific question. I'd have to know which tree and where.
Okay, that, it was a general question. not
We took credit for a bunch of trees that we didn't want. That
Okay.
that they had died and they said, well, we'll put new trees in. And we said, we don't want new trees. We want a credit for the tree. Because some of the trees were just too close to the building. And we didn't want them there, so.
Okay.
That one's a hard one to answer on Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next is school fees. So every year USB requires each LEA to approve a schedule of school fees. Pat and Karen will lead the board in discussion of the school fees for the 23-24 school year.
So, the past couple of years, this was a new law 2 years ago. And, we submitted ours late. We got approved. Every district was grappling with getting the schedule done, meeting the law and all of those things. This particular, fee schedule is exactly like last year's. We talked and decided not to increase any of the fees or change any of the fees. Nothing's different. We changed the date. So it is exactly the same as what you approved last year. And we're just doing it earlier. The last 2 years, we've done it in September, I believe, or October. And so we're just getting it done so we can meet the deadline. But Pat and I talked through this. Admin had a chance to weigh in if they desired fee increases, and this is where we're at.
I'd like to make a comment.
Please do.
I'm just doing some arithmetic. So section 1, it says basic registration fees are 75 to 110. But if they pay 55 and 25, not 80.
Yep.
So should we change the top where it says it's between 80
Yeah,
and 120?
that's because last
It
year
was,
we
yeah,
increased the
$5,
computer
right?
equipment. Yeah, good catch.
And same with MLH, middle school,
Okay.
should
great,
be
good catch.
75.
I have a question about, this is a fee schedule under district policy, student fees, fines and charges. Does that include charges? For example,
no,
a
no.
computer screen was broken for a computer that they had to pay 25. Do we put charges of that kind of stuff on?
Not on fee, I'm not on the fee schedule. That's
Okay.
just referencing policy FI,
Okay,
which is called student fees, fines and charges. And that policy spells out all the legal things. And then this is our fee schedule that we're required.
so
to
do we not have to put, if we're gonna
No.
charge people certain things,
No.
we're damage, I guess.
One thing that did change here, that we got Friday in the training meeting is they're no longer going to require us to fill out that year-end school fees summary analysis that's been going on. They're going to pull it directly from the UPEPS report that goes to the state. So that's one positive. The other thing that happens is once you adopt this, then all the schools have to rebuild their spend plans for each of these fees again, like they did last year, and then we have to post that on the website with the fees, still part of the law, so.
This was just up for discussion. It'll be an action item on next week's agenda. So if there's anything that, you have the week, basically, like you have now to comment, but you also have the week. So if there's anything that, by next Wednesday you want changed or different, we can.
I guess that would be my maybe comment is, since we are requiring computers now, somehow say a replacement computer, how much that costs, or so is that somewhere just so they know?
When they're distributed to the students, is that?
When they
so
send it,
home?
you keep for technology,
Yeah.
it's in there.
Okay,
But
I thought it was in there too, Taryn, no?
In here?
Yeah, the
No.
replacement cost for.
There's,
I can tell you how much. it costs to
there's
replace the
no,
I can too.
in this particular document, there's no replacement cost
That's why you're saying.
at all.
The AP, which you signed.
I'm not saying it's not, I'm just saying it should be on here just as a.
Do we need to have it on there, Pat, or not?
Say one more time.
Do we need to have computer stuff on there or not?
Replacement.
Replacement cost.
Replacement.
Well, what the state definition is the maintenance of school equipment, storing, repairing, or keeping in good working condition can be a fee, and not an end of life replacement. That cannot be a fee. So we're trying with that $25 when we're trying to buy warranties and stuff so that will cover all of our repairs and to keep them in good working condition, so we don't have to buy new computers. So
But-
that's kind of a new one we've just put in about 2 years ago.
Yeah, Melissa's question is, since we have one-to-one computers now, if a student breaks the screen and it isn't normal wear and tear, I guess, then the student is charged a fee above and beyond this $25 to replace the screen.
Yes, they are, but it's not called a fee. Damage is called a fine.
Exactly.
And so this doesn't include fines.
Yes.
This does not include fines.
Okay.
You have to be very specific with the state wording and definitions.
One thing I know is about fees, and maybe I'm missing something, is, like, I found out when we were doing the walkthrough that I owed some fees that I didn't know about.
Wow, did you make a difference, Don?
It called me.
Go to the fee
They were
station.
looking for you, they knew you were coming.
It was funny, they called me and I said, okay, I'll pay that right away. Then I walked in the office, they were like, that was quick.
Oh, gotcha.
No, it just seemed like the notifying parents that they owe money. I guess when you first register, you might, right?
You pay whatever, but
But
yeah,
then that second and third.
I don't
time,
know how that works.
Yeah, and then we reach out to parents,
We send a bill out with
And send a
every
bill
parent
out.
teacher conference.
every time, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
so
we
every
also-
time we send a correspondence home, you get a bill.
So he was negligent.
Well, maybe your kid pulled his report card, every correspondence home, maybe your child knows this is from the district and pulls it. I mean, I just have seen some teenagers.
The report card?
Any report. progress
Oh, no,
reports.
no, I get
Oh.
it. He doesn't do
And they
that.
see
So like, who knows with that?
the bill in there.
Yeah,
Oh,
at
okay.
least with my
What
kids.
did I miss, seeing I even owed money?
What fee was it?
Yeah, I think it was a lab fee and, I forget what the other one was.
So that, but they
Maybe
come up
art.
every trimester, right? Like if your kid didn't have science one trimester, they wouldn't have it first try. But then second try, they have science and there's a lab fee. And so, all of a sudden you have a lab fee. So yes, they accumulate over the year. They're not like first thing in the year. Because sometimes kids change classes so
Right.
much
Right,
that if we did it like upfront, then people would be demanding refunds, which makes sense.
yeah.
So they kind of do come from trimester to trimester.
So the correspondence might have not been there either for third try.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
It might have come with your report card at the end of the year.
And in particular with seniors, we are a little bit more you need to pay your fees before you graduate, and so it's a little bit more.
We're reaching out to the seniors now.
You're more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they already.
It's a word special treatment thing.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions about school fees? Ariel? All right, moving on.
Sounds good.
Oh, I forgot about you.
Still trying to
I-
get better.
I asked and then. Required board training. So I asked parents to, list these trainings that we are required to do as the board. We annually have to do the open meetings law. You made a,
And that's right here on this document.
Mm.
And if you click where it says here, it actually will take you right to the open meetings law training. And that one's pretty quick and easy. Please remember, when you finish it, to print off your certificate and give it to Corey. And he'll file it so that when we're audited.
He gives
we
a
can
copy to
just
me.
produce- What?
I gotta have a copy.
Please give a copy to Pat. Or Clint.
Or Clint.
Anyone, really. Everyone. And the other one that is required, this one is interesting. Melissa was asking me about it. So it's fiscal and auditing policies. And I looked up the law and I quoted it there for you. So that very first link is the law. And it says it includes a mandatory training requirement for LEA boards related to audit committees and internal audit functions. The training materials, this is directly from the state, have been refreshed and are available on the website, and that's the link to the trainings. And then there's 3 different modules. And so module 1 is for all board members, not just audit committee, all board members. Then module 2 is for audit committee members. And then number 3 is audit committee members if you have more than 10,000 enrolled, and we don't. So for us, it's 2 modules. Module 1 for everyone, module 2 just for those of you on the audit committee. If that
That's
makes sense. Yep.
and that, and then the other training that was referenced in the fraud assessment is something also different, that it was the one that you have 4 years to complete.
Oh, my hell.
So I remember just doing it all. So it is separate. It's different than these ones. And you guys might have started it, but you might double
Fraud?
check.
I'll check.
It's on the,
I've done some. Are they where there's like 8 of them?
yeah,
Yeah,
8 of them.
yeah. And they're
Yeah.
actually pretty, I mean, the whole thing together, maybe an hour.
Maybe an hour.
Yeah.
Wasn't very long.
Yeah.
And so I would suggest doing it all. So
What
that-
about all of us doing the top 2 anyway, just because,
Yes, you should.
I mean,
Yeah.
because you're gonna learn a little
Yes.
Yes,
regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would recommend that.
That everybody
Module
do
1,
it.
module 2,
Yeah.
do this open meetings law, and then you will probably have to do the fraud
Mhm.
one. I don't know where everybody else is. It was an 8.
Is it on the fraud
Yeah.
risk assessment thing?
Mhm.
So if you just look back on here.
I'll get that all done. I'm gonna have a lot of time on my hands coming up. Retired,
Yeah.
It's on the state auditor's website.
July
It was
31st,
one of
but
those
really
yes and no questions.
end of June for the big.
Well, this is the one that gives us the 200 points, so it might not be that one.
That's this.
No,
So
it's
I
on
just-
the checklist, I
And
think.
it's this. Right, so it's introductory training for school board members. It's actually 18 lessons.
Oh, 18.
And then there's the Open and Public Meetings Act, but I don't know if it's all from the same website. But
The
it's
Open and Public Meetings Act is the same as this one that's linked on your agenda.
So,
Yeah, they're all available on the state auditor's website.
So you just need to double check. And you can, if we have them in your file.
Well,
we
Pat
have them.
apparently has them.
Contact Pat and see if you done it.
Which one you're talking about?
The
I
fraud
don't
one.
have anybody's for this year. I have nobody's open meeting laws or their audit committee training for this year.
The,
Everything I had for last year.
it's on the, 20, the fraud risk assessment with the points. It says, have all governing bodies complete entity-specific training from online training.auditor.utah.gov within 4 years of term of election date. It was last year.
So I have everybody's but
You only
Dina's
did 2
on that.
terms, you wouldn't even have to.
You might have done it. That's what you just need to double check it,
I think I did, but.
Hey,
but it
I'm
did
with
give us
you.
points.
Pat, I gave Aspen my open meeting law training.
Okay, they just need to make a
You-
copy and scan them for me.
And so if that's annually and we did it in August, should we wait until August to do it or are we good?
Either way,
Okay.
It doesn't calendar.
We were doing it in January.
what I would
Because they were
recommend
at
is
the
you get on a
conference.
June to June cycle so that you have it done just before the auditors come.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
I think we did it right before the auditors last year to make sure.
so which one, June?
After June,
Which one did we?
open meetings,
Huh?
open meetings. law.
Oh.
We can have a check-in. We'll put that on the agenda for the retreat. A check-in of those trainings. Okay. Next is the personnel list. And.
Come get theirs.
Oh, dear.
I'm thinking, why is she there? That's all.
She's not done yet, huh?
It's like, yeah.
Okay. Is that-
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Maybe we can.
I
fold
had
it.
so many things open.
So looking at this, there's only 4 things we're approving.
Really, you're just discussing today.
I mean, yeah, thanks. Thank you for discussion.
Okay, there it is.
So right now, we have open the school-based therapist, HMK speech pathologist, 2nd grade teacher, 4th grade teacher, and 6th grade teacher.
Those, these are filled.
Yeah, I didn't know if those were hard, yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay,
These
Yeah,
are, those are
the
bills.
2nd grade, 4th grade, 6th grade reading teacher are all filled. They'll show up for your approval next week.
I'll get the names and.
Is Carrie McKay leaving?
No, she's
She's
teaching
just
math.
Pass it on, but
When Lindsay moved to the high school, Carrie did the math and decided she really likes it. So we still have the school-based therapist. We're not replacing this SLP. I mean, we have a person that when fully certificated.
right? Okay, go. We are replacing the SLP.
Okay,
I apologize, because the SLT is not qualified yet.
okay. So we're maintaining 3 still.
We're maintaining,
Well, 2 SLPs
we're maintaining,
and 1 SLT. That's
right.
3, right?
So what will have to happen when the SLT gets
Mhm.
her, all of her credentials in order, she'll have to wait until somebody takes it.
Okay.
Yeah.
what is this? What are we talking about?
SLP, speech language patents, we
Okay.
have 2 of those, and we have 1 speech language technician who is in the process of getting her full licensure to be an SLP.
So,
I hate-
but we are
So
accepting
one,
a resignation of one of those.
yeah,
Okay, so one, we have 3 staff. So 2 SLPs, 1 SLT, 1 SLP has resigned. And so we're looking to fill that position. And we'll fill that position And then this person is planning on becoming an SLP, but we can't have 3 SLPs. So.
Because of money.
Because of the money, that was an adjustment to the budget. So she's a couple of years out
Oh, a
and,
couple of
or
years.
at least a year out.
Okay.
And, so we can't, I mean, we have to have that second SLP.
And what happens if we can't find an SLP?
We'll have to contract. I've already started looking for contracted teachers for special education. That's where we're at.
And then we have the severe sped teacher opening at HMK.
What's that, an SB? Yeah, or something? I'm
No,
trying to
that's
figure out
a
the acronym. I'm up there looking at it, SB.
That's an SS. Okay.
Everything's an acronym. It's
Um,
like,
Children with complex needs.
And then we have the auto shop, the auto teacher and the businessman openings. And that's it as far as certified.
Okay, and then classifieds.
We have a bunch,
Yeah.
most of which won't be filled until August. We hope they're filled in August. Maintenance, Julio is leaving, end of June. So I think Frank's looking to replace him starting July 1. Other than that, everything else is open, and like the custodial positions, the transportation positions, we take immediately. That middle school academic TA has been open forever. So there's, we've got several Title I para openings, we've got. Huh? Yeah, so anyway, I didn't attach the graph I made because y'all wanted this one instead, so there it is.
Did we approve the lunch, the CNP last month?
Mhm,
Okay,
I believe so, we'll double check. We did,
Okay, yeah.
right?
thanks. And then the only thing since I see there's a head basketball coach for the high school and then also middle school resignation for girls, Drew went to high school. So the middle school one is open.
Thinking about it.
Now we got,
Yeah, I haven't seen the paperwork.
oh,
Yeah.
but,
Oh.
but
Yeah, that question paper.
It's Grace is going to.
But I did get a resignation.
Okay,
That's all.
yeah, so as soon as we have
But Drew's
that,
Drew wasn't on last meeting, it would be on this one, okay.
yeah, so just update, add Drew. Make sure the paperwork's there.
Yeah, we haven't seen.
Because I've sent the paperwork over.
Great, we'll just check with
Okay.
Krista. Yeah. We're just trying to make that process really stick,
Yeah.
where all the ducks are in a row, so.
Mhm. Okay, any other questions for me, personnel? And then kind of May personnel, but since Clint's here, so we'll be voting on a contract in May for Clint, and then we'll swear in June sometime. We'll either figure out an extra meeting day for 5 minutes or just throw it in.
I love 5-minute meetings, so by all means, do that.
let's schedule more of those. Let's look forward.
Instead of the
Yeah.
5-hour meeting, that's, yeah, that's what it is. Instead, not in addition.
I make you nominate.
All right, that is all we have on our agenda. We do have executive session to talk about
Escape
some
everyone.
character and competency and
Get out.
personnel and negotiations and it all. So I'll accept a motion to recess.
I make a motion to recess.
I second it.
Steve Kenny makes a motion to recess. D. Ray,
And Melissa negotiations.
Okay, you ready? Second to go into recess. All those in favor say aye.
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 Bye, Joseph. Have a good
Bye.
night.
That passes 5-0.
Yeah, so they're all out of there, caterpillars, but they didn't spray new oil on there. I told them to burn them, but they said, "Oh, that's not gonna work." And they're just trying to figure out what they were gonna use. That's what I told them. I said, "What?" I'm like, I saw them. Can you burn them? And they're like, "No, we can't burn them." I'm like, "Okay, well, cut them or do something."
It's a shame.
Dead.
Hopefully, they'll recover. Maybe they'll repair.
Can't complain. Thanks for everything.
They did spray them down there.
You,
So it brings the
Oh,
building in.
you'll suddenly be
Level
able
up
to
my
hear.
ground.
Yeah.
Well, instead of bringing Phyllis,
should be
he's all
able to-
okay with rock.
You
too,
I
right?
don't see, yeah, I got a ditch with. Wouldn't touch it.
So
It's much better like that, deep. I got a shovel.
I'm just gonna,
Trencher, and it was.
I'm just gonna
I'm only-
end the YouTube
I'm only that big,
recording,
but I don't.
because we won't
Yeah.
need it today.
No.
Doing post holes for my fence.
Yeah, I can figure it
I've
out
got multiple
next week.
fence holes.
Yeah, he.
That's a front way.
I guess it
Pouring
probably
rocks.
really, really an issue if somebody is out there on insurance to